It's Wednesday, June 2. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson. As of June 3, weekday curfews will begin at 9 p.m. and end at 5 a.m. until July 1. The new curfews and other safety protocols were announced by Prime Minister Andrew Holness in Parliament on Tuesday afternoon. Simone Absalom Gale reports.
For weekends, Madam Speaker, the curfew will begin at 8 p.m. on Saturdays and on 2 p.m. on Sundays and end at 5 a.m. the following morning. So we have done, Madam Speaker, a recrafting of the hours to allow for greater commerce.
The Prime Minister says the curfew hours on Sundays remain the same. The public gathering limit remains at 10 persons. He also discussed operating hours of markets and the transportation sector.
For markets and vending in public arcades and public transportation centres, operating hours will be from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Mondays through Saturdays. Markets will remain closed on Sundays. Public transportation operators will still be allowed to be on the road 1 hour before and 1 hour after the curfew, but there can be no passengers in the vehicles during these periods. Madam Speaker, all persons in PPV vehicles, public passenger transport vehicles, are reminded to wear masks at all times and sanitize before entry and exit of vehicles. Ensure the windows remain open and the AC is turned off during trips. As a reminder, motor vehicles that provide public transportation are to have one less passenger than is allowed by the license.
Funeral services are still under strict safety protocols.
What this means is that services with the mortal remains being present are not permitted. Let me put that in terms everyone can understand. The DRMA considers a worship service to be a funeral if the body of the deceased is in the church. Otherwise, a gathering in a church is considered as a normal worship service. You may term it a memorial service, a celebration of life, or whatever you'd want to term it. So it is possible to have a service in honor of the deceased, but in keeping with the measures that govern normal worship services.
He says the maximum number of attendants for burials is 15, including the clergy. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Simone Absalom Gale.
Jamaica is steadily making its way back to pre-pandemic numbers for incoming stopover arrivals. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says travel numbers have increased in tandem with vaccination levels around the world. He explained the possible impact to the country's tourism sector while addressing Parliament on Tuesday.
The tourism ministry was severely affected by the pandemic after it came to a virtual halt for weeks with the closure of borders last year. A little over 12 months later, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says between May 1 and May 28, 125,000 applications for entry were processed on the Jam COVID platform.
Of this total, approximately 115,000 were visitors. The comparative number for April 2021 was approximately 90,000. Recall that in May 2020, our borders were closed. In May 2019, we had approximately 211,000 stopover visitors. So technically now, Madam Speaker, we are roughly at 55% of pre-pandemic levels.
The Tourism Ministry has since launched a novel concept, a resilient corridor, to manage the movement of tourists. All resorts on the resilient corridor are required to establish an emergency plan physical distancing plan, a communication and reporting plan to ensure the safety of visitors and stakeholders.
People are traveling and people are choosing Jamaica as a country to travel to.
The Prime Minister says controlled entry protocols remain a critical element of Jamaica's overall COVID-19 management.
The requirement for all incoming travelers to present a negative COVID-19 test conducted within 3 days of travel remains in place. However, we have reduced the quarantine requirement for fully vaccinated persons to 8 days.
Fully vaccinated persons can still carry and transmit the virus, hence the quarantine requirement. On the matter of travel restrictions,
given concerns about more transmissibility of variant strains of the virus, the travel restrictions for South American countries, Brazil, Chile, Peru, Colombia, Argentina, and Paraguay, as well as for India and Trinidad and Tobago, is also being extended until June 30th, 2021. Of course, we continue to reassess these as circumstances warrant.
For the news on PBCJ, I'm Simone Absalom Gale.
Opposition leader Mark Golding has indicated his support for the government's push to achieve herd immunity against the coronavirus. Speaking Tuesday in the House of Representatives, he echoed Prime Minister Andrew Holness's sentiments about Jamaica being a country familiar with inoculation. Calling it a national duty, the opposition leader also prompted the nation's leaders to, quote, join dialogue in encouraging Jamaicans to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, end quote.
As leaders, we set the example and hope that others will follow. And as has been said, it's a difficult thing because so many of our people are influenced in an era of pervasive social media by the misinformation that is prevalent, and tied in with perhaps a culture that is a little hesitant about this particular vaccine as well. And that combination is a challenging combination for Jamaica, and we have to resist it because ultimately getting our economy back up and running, getting back to a state of normalcy in the society, how we can move around, how we can socialize, how we can worship, and so on, is going to be dependent on achieving that percentage, that 65 to 75% that the Prime Minister spoke of. So we all as leaders have a duty to try to encourage persons to take a scientific approach, don't embrace or further the interests of those who enjoy spreading misinformation. And let us try to get to the point where we can say Jamaica is essentially COVID-free. And I will always support that initiative and play my part, Prime Minister, to promote it, because I think it's a national duty.
To date, over 155,000 Jamaicans have received a first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, and 22,206 have received their second dose. On Sunday, 55,200 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine were received from the COVAX facility. China's SINOVAC COVID-19 vaccine has been approved for emergency use. The emergency approval means the vaccine meets international standards for safety, efficacy, and manufacturing. The World Health Organization, WHO, has given the nod so the vaccine can be used in the COVAX facility. The COVAX facility aims to ensure fair access to vaccines. The 2-dose SINOVAC COVID vaccine can be used by people over 18 years old. One of SINOVAC's main advantages is that it can be stored in a standard refrigerator at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, making it a lot more useful to developing countries with storage issues. Commonwealth Secretary-General Baroness Patricia Scotland, the first woman to hold the post, headlined today's launch by the Office of the Political Ombudsman of a historic report reviewing the 2020 general elections campaign. Baroness Scotland was born in Dominica and is the second person from the Caribbean to serve as Commonwealth Secretary-General. As Secretary General, Baroness Scotland is responsible for promoting and protecting the Commonwealth's values, representing the Commonwealth publicly, as well as the management of the Commonwealth Secretariat. The launch was held virtually. Jamaica's general election on September 3, 2020 was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. June 1 is celebrated as World Reef Awareness Day. Coral reefs reportedly cover less than 1% of oceans but support over 25% of all marine life. There has been significant damage to Jamaica's coral reefs over the past 30 years due to the combined effects of human influences, poorly planned coastal developments, overfishing, and hurricanes. Efforts to protect and restore Jamaica's reef systems include bringing dead reefs back to life through coral farming. Marlon Samuels has more in this report.
Coral reefs provide a habitat for fish stock, protect our beaches and coastlines from hurricanes. Coral reefs are considered to be among the most threatened and fastest deteriorating marine ecosystems. A crucial management approach is to protect the coral reefs. However, the current rapid decline of the world's reefs indicates protection is not a good standalone option. In Jamaica, there is reportedly less than 20% of Jamaica's original coral reef remaining. The destruction of the coral reefs, overfishing, pollution, hurricanes, disease, and global warming are all causing the depletion of fish numbers in Jamaica. A number of stakeholders are trying to build back Jamaica's fish stock, including the White River Fish Sanctuary in St. Ann. The sanctuary forms a part of a $16 million investment from the Tourism Enhancement Fund and other stakeholders to ensure sustainability of the fish sanctuary. Over 2,700 pieces of coral have already been planted by the sanctuary. The 5 years goal is to plant over 5,000 pieces. Coral farming is a cost-effective tool for reef rehabilitation. It's also a means of improving the livelihood of fisherfolks in Jamaica. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
We now get the latest financial market details in this quick business report. In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index declined by 1,634 points to close at over 422,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 94 stocks, of which 41 advanced, 42 declined, and 11 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 2 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Burita Investments Limited, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Trading firm were Carreras Limited, Derrimon Trading Company Limited, and Elite Diagnostic Limited. Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited USD was the volume leader with 2.4 million units, followed by Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with 2.2 million units and NCB Financial Group Limited with under 900,000 units. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, June 1, the US dollar sold for an average $149.39. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $125.17. The pound sterling traded for $212.19, and the euro sold for an average $183.47. Oil rose on Wednesday, supported by an OPEC Plus decision to stick to its plan to restore supply to the market gradually and by the slow pace of nuclear talks between Iran and the United States. Expecting a recovery in demand, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and its allies, together known as OPEC Plus, agreed on Tuesday to keep to their plan for a gradual easing of supply curbs through July. OPEC Plus data shows the group is now more upbeat about the pace of rebalancing in the oil market than it was a month ago. Brent crude futures rose 83 cents to $71.08 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude added 69 cents to $68.41 a barrel. In today's Living Healthy, Dr. Heather Dawn Lawson-Myers of Ligony Family Dental speaks about sleep disorders and the aspect of dentistry that focuses on dental sleep medicine.
Hi, I'm HD. Welcome to another episode of HDs Jazz. I'm in the beautiful hills of St. Andrew, and today we're going to speak about sleep disordered breathing and the aspect of dentistry that focuses on that, dental sleep medicine. Dental sleep medicine is a relatively new aspect of dentistry that focuses on the airway, keeping that airway open. And so it covers or it seeks to address many airway issues, from snoring to upper airway resistance syndrome to obstructive sleep apnea. The dentist often works in partnership or in conjunction with other medical physicians, such as the pulmonologist, the orofacial surgeon, the otolaryngologist or ENT, and the orthodontist. And treatment may range from an appliance to a continuous positive airway pressure machine to surgery. We can also work with a therapist, an orofacial myologist, who can help you to retrain how we use our tongue and muscles to swallow, and to make sure that we're using them in a way that it is optimum for breathing. Now, why is this so important? Because an airway that doesn't stay open, that closes off frequently, really is going to affect the amount of oxygen that goes in your body. Now, people who have breathing disorders often have problems with hypertension or high blood pressure, diabetes. Many times they have cardiac or heart problems, and they may feel a lot of morning fatigue, daytime sleepiness. A lot of accidents that occur on the road occur because people have breathing disorders. So it's very important. If any of these symptoms seem familiar to you, check your dentist, check your ENT, check your orthodontist. Any one of these specialists can give you some guidance as to how to go about treating or managing this disorder. So if you have sleep disordered breathing, it causes more accidents on the road because of sleepiness. It causes hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular or heart problems, and just general fatigue and tiredness. There are many persons who can help you, including the dental surgeon, the ENT, the maxillofacial surgeon, or the orthodontist. So there is help, and the most important thing is to recognize that there's a problem. Listen, I'm out of here. Check me next time. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, the LFD website. See you next time on HD's Jazz.
And in regional news, members of the St. Kitts and Nevis Defence Force have been instructed to make a meaningful contribution to the recovery efforts in St. Vincent, where they will join other members of the Regional Security Service, RSS. Glenn Bart has the details.
Just before departure on the weekend on the RSS aircraft at the Robert Llewellyn Batchery International Airport, Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris greeted the team, wished them a productive engagement and cautioned them to be careful about COVID-19.
Let this be a good show of regional solidarity to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, from the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis Let your conduct and behavior be such that you will enhance the respect and regard of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the people and government of St. Kitts and Nevis. So may God bless you. Keep safe. You're where we are in the COVID-19 environment. COVID-19 does not discriminate. Doesn't matter whether you're tall or black, short, in school, out of school, and elderly. COVID-19 will attack you.
In a show of solidarity, Commissioner of Police Hilroy Brandy presented a check to be handed over to the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force and the Police Credit Union raised and collected several thousands of dollars for the donation.
I want you to hand over this check, this manager's check of $25,000 from the Police Force and the Police Credit Union to Commissioner John to show our crimes of disaster, to contribute to his men and women of the organization of the Royal St. Vincent and Police Force.
The team was also addressed at the airport by Major Coyote Sutton of the St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, many people have been focused on securing their livelihoods and surviving an event that has negatively impacted the economy. But one group is asking people to also show some compassion for animals as they too need our help during the pandemic. Kimberly D'Souza tells us more.
Agoutis, squirrels and manacles all have a home at our Heritage Learning Resource Center in Arima. And the president and co-founder is hoping donations can sustain the shelter during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Nature Park and Animal Sanctuary also houses domestic animals, including dogs, and one of the most protected animals is the endangered tortoises, which are sometimes killed and used as food.
They are native to our range, but they are threatened with extinction. They are used for many different things, including food sources. They are cooked, they are kept in horrible conditions in captivity, and they end up with all sorts of health issues.
Ms. Ali said protecting animals require proper fencing, and this is expensive, as it can cost upwards of $20,000 for wiring alone. As such, she is open to receiving donations.
We are open to receiving offers, even if it's used material. We are happy to upcycle it into the projects we're using here, so it's reducing the carbon footprint on the environment.
Before the pandemic, the shelter maintained its operations through Ms. Ali's private income and social entrepreneurship. But she and her husband had to find new ways to generate revenue.
So last year in our phased recovery plans, we started producing upcycled tire pet beds. We leaned heavily towards landscaping services and providing ornamental plants for sale.
She said animals should be protected at all costs as they are seed dispersers and form a vital role in their ecosystem.
Every animal in an ecosystem serves a purpose, and we need to protect them. We are First Peoples, and we are fighting for the right to protect the biodiversity and the natural life and order of both humans and animals within our community.
Kimberly D'Souza, TTT News.
Days after the Guyana Water Incorporated announced its plan to dismiss more than 300 workers across the company, the process began on Monday with the firing of 76 workers. Another group of workers was sent packing on Tuesday. Gordon Mosley reports.
At many of the locations, workers broke down in tears after receiving their dismissal letters. Some said they have no other form of income for their families and it will be tough on them financially moving forward without a job. In the dismissal letter, the workers were told that the company is going through major restructuring to align the business to meet its new objectives. The workers were also told that due to the restructuring move, the company has decided to reduce the number of positions within the company, and it is regretful of the move. The dismissed workers have been asked to return company property before the 4th of June and have been promised 1 month's salary. GWI Chief Executive Officer Sheikh Baksh at a press conference last week said there were too many workers at the company and there is a need to reduce the workforce. He said in the past 5 years, more than 400 workers were added to the GWI employment list, sending up costs. While admitting that the company is currently in a good financial position, Baksh said the workforce still needed to be reduced.
And in sports, FIFA and the Caribbean Community CARICOM have signed a Memorandum of Understanding MOU to promote sports integrity and social responsibility while furthering the development of football in the region. The landmark agreement was signed by CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin Larocque and FIFA President Gianni Infantino at a virtual ceremony. The MOU focuses on several key areas of collaboration, including the implementation of a football program in the physical education curricula in primary schools in the CARICOM region. FIFA, together with its member associations, will provide support for the development of football training, competitions, and the training of football coaches, officials, and administrators, along with physical education teachers. Other key focus areas of the agreement include the fight against match manipulation and the promotion of sports integrity and social responsibility. And still in sports, there has been mounting opposition in host nation Japan to the staging of the Tokyo Olympics. This has led some to the question, will the postponed Tokyo Olympics open despite rising opposition and the pandemic? The answer is almost certainly yes. Senior International Olympic Committee member Richard Pound was emphatic in an interview with a British newspaper. Speaking to the Evening Standard, he said, quote, "Barring Armageddon that we can't see or anticipate, these things are a go," end quote. Currently, Tokyo is under a COVID-19 state of emergency, but IOC Vice President John Coates had said the Games will open on July 23, state of emergency or no. On Tuesday, Australia's softball team, the first major group of athletes from abroad to set up an Olympic base in Japan, arrived in Tokyo. This is a clear sign that things are moving ahead. And with that, we call an end to today's newscast. On behalf of our entire production team, we say thanks for watching and, as always, pleasant viewing.